Hello and welcome to my channel. Today with me I have Rob from All In Together
Hello.
and
I
Yichin.
don't know what you wanted me to say. Well,
Okay, we'll start this
let's try
over.
it
We'll do
again.
this over. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
No,
say
why are you
hello.
doing this over? This is fine. Fine.
Okay, and
Relax.
I also have Yichin from OKNY.
Okay, what's up?
Alright, and today we are going to be ranking every single Flesh and Blood keyword and mechanic, including the two newly revealed ones, the Crowd Cheers You and the Crowd Boos You. Just to preface, we're going to be going roughly in set order, starting with Go Again and ending with the new ones. Some might be a little bit off. And we're going to be ranking every single mechanic from S through F. So we have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and then F tier. Do both of you have any comments to make before we get started?
No, not really.
Yep, I'm good to go.
Alright, so first and foremost, we have Go Again. Go Again just means gain one action point. How do we feel about Go Again?
I don't know. It's kind of bland.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It does
There's
its
a
job.
better name for it. So I rated it a C.
See? How did...
Yeah, because they could have chosen a better name with it for it, and the main issue with Gogan is that it's used so much and might as well just be like a default game action rather than like a mechanic. Really,
But I like the name Go
you
Again.
can just made it like a like you can use the symbol,
Yeah.
you could use anything, but like it just
Alright.
seems like it's a foundational building block of the system. So it seems weird to have to write it out every time.
Alright, yeah, that's fair. So we feeling B tier?
I think,
Oh,
yeah.
you said S. Defend your position.
It's
Brian.
Go Again. It's like, as you said, it's a foundational building block. So S tier.
Yeah. So defend your position.
It's just so cool. You get to go again. Every other card has Go Again.
No, depends what class you're playing.
Well, almost every card has Go Again.
Does that make it good?
Yeah, Go
The
Again's
mechanic
great.
needs to be on every card. Doesn't make it doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't mean a mechanic or a bad mechanic.
It's just a core mechanic. I think it's just, I don't know. It feels just very stock standard and baseline.
Alright, B tier it is then. Go Again gets B. Alright, next up we have Specialization. I initially ranked this as B, but after the new reveals, I'm putting it in C tier. I love the flavor of it, but I hate that we're not getting new Specialization cards. The last time we got Specialization cards was a year ago with Rosetta, and since then, Hunted brought one Specialization in the equipment, but none for the new heroes.
Aren't Wrath of Retribution and Blood, Fire and Brimstone both specs?
Nope, they're just legendary.
No shot.
Brian, why does a mechanic's absence make you rate it lower?
Because I like the
Yeah, that's-
flavor of Specialization. I want to know what this hero does differently than all other heroes, and it's like we haven't gotten that for an entire year.
We have specializations. We have gotten specializations in the last year.
Only on one card in the Hunted for Arachne. None of the new heroes have gotten any. None of the heroes from High Seas had them either.
We had Ring of Roses. We had Retrace the Past.
Yeah,
we
but
had
those are
Not
for,
So Fast.
Those are for old heroes.
What is Not So Fast then?
That's not Scurv is not a real hero. Scurv is a limited hero.
We have Crumble to Eternity. We have Unforgetting Unforgiving.
Those are all last year,
Oh,
2024.
First you say it's like first you say that they help define heroes, and then you like instantly dismiss the heroes that have them as not real heroes.
Yeah.
What kind of
Scurv is not a real hero. Show me one
weird ass
Scurv
hookah are you
player.
smoking, man?
Show me one.
Anyway,
Scurv
B tier.
player. B tier. All right, I'll put it in B.
Yeah. See,
All right.
my will is correct.
Intimidate. C tier.
Yeah, it's C.
Yeah,
You can't put it on too much stuff, and it can't show them in super high densities. But it's fine for what it does. It just makes the game less interactive, so it's kind of C-ish.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important way for some heroes to close the game out. But I agree, too much of it is a problem. I think that new card they unveiled is a little scary, but we'll see how it gets. How it plays.
Yeah. There's new Intimidate cards. That one's really funny.
Next we have Crush. So Crush is it's not an actual keyword, it doesn't mean anything by itself, but crush cards check if the attack deals 4 or more damage to a hero.
Yeah, it's an ability word.
Yep. So, Rob, S tier, right?
Yes, this is an S tier mechanic. This is a really well designed mechanic. This does perfectly what Guardian wants to do. It's kind of the forefront of how Guardian should play and how you play in a Guardian. I think a lot of people will look at Crush and say, "Man, I wish it was on hit," and I think that's not good. I think a lot of people complain. The card people complain about a lot for Guardian are things like Terra Thunder, things like Oakenold that are on hits. People complain about Azaleas on hits, but having your opponent have counterplay by only having to block part of it is good, so that we don't have to commit too much to defense. And it's still like your opponent can play into it, especially if you have a lot of dominated effects. But your opponent has to give cards up, and they're taking damage. This plays exactly into what Guardian wants to do, where we're taking cards and we're dealing damage, we're whittling them down over a long course of a game. So I think this was a stellar mechanic, and I'm excited to see what new Crush cards come out in the next couple sets here.
Yep, I agree.
I basically agree.
Yeah.
It's nice, easy to rock. I don't like the new Crush cards that say if you've hit a Guardian hero. I think that muddles the definition of a keyword a bit, but it's fine.
Yep. I also like how
It's
well
serviceable.
they work with Pummel, because even if your opponent blocks it out completely, you can just play a red Pummel, get the crush effect off, and Pummel's on hit. So yep, pretty well designed mechanic.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fine.
Next we have Dominate. Dominate just means the defending hero can't defend this with more than one card from hand. I think Dominate has mainly been supplanted by Overpower as the keyword of choice. Overpower we'll get to in a bit. So Dominate's just kind of there as an older
I disagree with
mechanic.
that. Because like we have Valda coming out in like a month, who her whole hero mechanic is Dominate.
Well, but
I think they're just using...
Valda's also originally printed in Everfest. Like the young version of Valda was around
Sure.
before Overpower
But they could
was
have
a
just
thing.
They could have just printed a different Valda for the set. They didn't have to reprint her.
Yeah, I think it's fine if we're getting it occasionally, but if LSS wants to go for a Dominate style effect now, they'll just rather use Overpower instead.
Yeah. I think Dominate's fine with Crush, but Overpower's better for on hits.
That's fair. Ichin, thoughts?
I mean, it's just a strong evasive mechanic. It's not really like super interesting. I think that the play patterns it causes creates an over reliance on the arsenal, which I think they want to de-emphasize a lot. So
how are we feeling
D
about
for
it?
Dominate.
D for Dominate? I'd say C for Combinate. Rob?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with C. I think that's a fair spot for it.
All right, it goes in C. Next up, Reprise. Reprise is a warrior mechanic that says if the defending hero has defended with a card from hand this chain link, you get to do the effect. In the case of Iron Song response, your weapon just gets +3 power. I really like this mechanic. I think it really embodies what warrior wants to do, which is kind of sneaky, evasive damage or punishing the opponent for defending with cards from hand. And, Iron Song response, the classic, always exists, the 0 for 3 that your opponent just has to play around. But yeah, I think it's neat. So I'd say A tier.
A tier.
Yeah.
I think it's S tier.
I think it's so well designed. I love it.
All right, yeah, I can easily be convinced for S tier. Yep, makes sense.
Yishin, why do you think
We
it's S tier?
convinced you. We just said the thing is S.
I mean, I like the mechanic. I just thought, I'm giving too many mechanics S.
You
I think
haven't
this is one
given
of the
any
ones that's
mechanics
worth
S
it.
yet.
Crush.
Sure. It's because you gave Gogan-esque.
I
Even though
did
we
give
convinced
Gogan
you.
S, yeah.
Yeah, that one's a bit Krungo.
All right. But yeah, Reprise, solid mechanic. Next up, the one we disagree on, it's combo. So combo is if a card with a certain name or with MST a certain color were the last to attack this combat chain, the card with combo gets certain additional effects. I think this is C tier because it's just such a clunky mechanic, both in limited and constructed, that you basically... So combo lines have existed since the start of the game, since Welcome to Wraith, but the issue with them is that they very specifically care about certain names, especially in Welcome to Wraith, which made it hard to build around in limited. Like the best combo card in Welcome to Wraith was probably Flusterfist, which was just a 0 for 4 that blocks 3. And then the mechanic has kind of evolved into this, or devolved into this Bonds of Ancestry Fest, where it's like looking for a specific keyword in the name. Like Bonds of Ancestry looks for Gustwave in the name, and then it just searches any combo card. It's like, yeah, just find any combo card you want. You don't have to actually do the work to get the combo line off. You can just
I really
find a
enjoyed
piece.
it with Crouching Tigers and MST. I enjoy it like when it's not just a specific name, like parts of names with colors, with like with tokens, or with a weapon. I like that. But saying it has to be like leg tap into X, I think it's cool when you can mess around with names, but it's not my favorite when you have to like just have specific names.
Yeah. So you'd give it a B?
Yeah, I think it's a B for me.
Okay.
It's an A. I think it opens up a lot of fun design space for Ninja. I think that the payoffs are all reasonable, and it encourages ways to creatively find ways to extend combo lines. And it's just flavorful. It's just good. It's just nice mechanic.
Yeah, that's
It's
my issue with
it's hard to design for sure, because you have to design the whole line basically.
Yeah.
But Elsis has been pretty good at designing flexible lines and interesting play patterns into the combo cards they've been building. So I have no issues with it right now.
Yeah,
Fine.
I think my issues with the mechanic are the exact opposite of what Rob said, where I really like the mechanic if it's looking for exact names and you have to follow a combo line all the way through. The issue I feel with the new stuff, the Crouching Tiger stuff especially, is that you're just basically boiling heroes down to find a combo card or make a Crouching Tiger, which is what happened with Zen. He literally did just both of those. He was like, find any combo card you want, and then make a Crouching Tiger in your hand to turn on the combo for that. Katsu has a similar issue, but at least when Katsu was initially designed, the combo lines were all very specific. So the goal with him was you hit off of a starter or hit off of some point in the combo, which allows you to find the later piece that you need for it, which I really liked. But it's kind of, in my opinion at least, it has kind of gone downhill since then, where combo cards don't really care about what's the previous link, just care about that the previous attack had like a property.
It's fine. I think yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really agree with that, but also like it's your opinion, man. So I don't have too much of I don't really have too much of a qualm about it. Otherwise,
Okay, so I said C, Rob said B, each and you say A, so let's compromise, put it in B.
sure,
Yeah.
it's
Sounds
fine.
good to me.
Yep.
I'm correct, but it's fine.
Bombo.
All right. All right, next up we have Legendary. Legendary means you can only have one copy of this card in your constructed deck. I think it's an S. I mean, I like cards that have Legendary
Same name as
fields.
as a rarity.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's definitely a knock against it, but I like this flavorful mechanic where it's like this piece is so strong or so specific that you can only have one of it. Like Hard to Find All, for example. It doesn't make sense that there's more than one Hard to Find All, so you can only run one in your deck.
I like
But it
the
makes sense.
flavor. I hate the mechanics of it. I think it's cool. Like, there's only like one that special power. It's only this one big thing. But mechanically, it sucks to just 1 in 60 they get the one of at the right time. It can be very frustrating and create, I think, swingy game states when you have these cards that are just like way above power level and they get hosed by being legendary, so only get one of them. But there are situations where you can recur cards, and that creates more problems. I think they're cool, like flavor pieces for the game, but just they can create some frustrating game states.
It's just like everything that Sergen said is moot when stuff like Drop of Dragon Blood is legendary. You're telling me there's only one drop of Dragon Blood? There's only one path well traveled? There's only one, I don't know, like cat that stirs pots?
Well, once you've like stirred the pot, you can't stir it more, right? Because otherwise the soup will go
I think
bad.
you can.
There's only one spike pit trap?
Yeah. Because once we know it's there, then it's like, oh, you know it's there, just walk around it.
Pretty terrible justification, man.
I don't know. It's more so a balancing mechanic than anything else, and I think the
Yeah, it's mostly
name-
that's the thing. It's like it's an anti-fun mechanic, right?
yeah, and I think the keyword name like fits it well, so I like it a lot.
Sure. That's fine.
All right. So I say S. Rob, what do you say?
I said B. Or no, I said C, actually.
Yeah. Yichin.
I think I rated it the lowest.
B.
B.
I said
Okay.
C. I think I said B. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We can compromise. Put it up in B then.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep. All right. Next is Blade Break. So Blade Break is a keyword on equipment that reads, when the combat chain closes, if this equipment defended, destroy it. How are we feeling about Blade Break?
I like it. I think it's just like slightly above standard to me. It's just it was really cool when I first opened up my first Flesh and Blood deck and saw it was like armor was a one-time thing. It was like you just use this once and you had to be like very careful and cautious about how you used it.
Yep, I feel the same
It's
way.
fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's just one of those mechanics that's like necessary for the game to function.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
I have no opinions on it other than that.
Yeah, I also like the kind of tension that comes with playing Blade Break equipment, because then you really need to consider when to use it, because it's a one-time use, and if you misuse it, like you misblocked something, or in the case of Tunic, if you don't have that extra resource available to you for the rest of the game, it can really be in your detriment, which really forces players to make better decisions about when to block and how to block. So I like it.
Yeah.
We feeling A tier?
I like A.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Next up, Battle Worn. So Battle Worn reads, Battle Worn on equipment reads, when the combat chain closes, if this defended, put a -1 defense counter on it, and then nothing happens to it. Battle Worn equipments can go down to 0 defense, and they just kind of sit around. It's like kind of the opposite of Blade Break.
I think this one's kind of lame.
I agree. I find it funny you put Valiant Dynamo here, because I think Valiant Dynamo is like the one piece of Battle Worn equipment I think I'm happy that's Battle Worn. I think things like Grasp of the Arcanite should have been Temper 2 or Blade Rig 2. I think we have too many pieces of equipment that stay around for too long and impact the game state. But something like Valiant Dynamo, like that's kind of its whole point, is it's supposed to be coming back, and like that's how it generates value, where the other equipments just stay around too long.
Yeah.
I feel similarly to Battle Worn as I feel about Blade Break, but that's also because Tectonic Plating is one of my favorite cards in the game. I just really like the flavor that this piece of equipment, or this thing that your hero is wearing, is so strong that it can stick around despite having multiple blows on it. And then, things like Tectonic Plating defending for 2, then defending for 1 is super cool. So I like it a lot. I've given it an A tier, but yeah, I can definitely see how it's very strong with certain equipment like Grasp or some of the other stuff that heroes have access to. So both of you rated it a C. I rated it an A. I'm fine with it being in C.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Sounds good.
All right, next up is our first Arcane Rising mechanic, which is Reload. Reload just reads, if you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put a card from your hand face down into your arsenal. To me, this is just a very alright mechanic. Nothing too special about it, nothing too crazy about it. It does enable ranger plays, with allowing you to save your bow if you don't want to use it right away, or if the arrow has go again, you can reload that arrow and then play another arrow by loading it with your bow or through other effects. So I think it's just a fine, neat, okay mechanic. Nothing too special, nothing too crazy. B tier for me.
I would prefer this to be used more than it actually is. I like the mechanic a lot, but I think as it is used right now, I think it's kind of just B. It does its job. It's pretty cool, but they don't really. There's multiple different ways that they write out how to reload arrows, and that kind of makes the mechanic feel a little bit out of place when all the other ones are written out, and there's a specific mechanic that loads it in a specific way.
Yeah, important to note that reload is any card from your hand into your arsenal, not just arrows. Whereas the ones that care about putting cards or arrows specifically face up into your arsenal are only specifically for arrows. So this is just kind of, you can put any card in with reload is the main thing.
Yeah.
I think I rated this a little bit higher than you both, because I really like just the mechanics of reload and like firing with a bow. I think in my mind, I put this with how Ranger works, where you have to fire arrows through a bow. which I feel like we should have arrows on here, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's just the mechanic of like having to load, reload, and just like the fantasy for me is very cool. More less so the mechanics of it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Rob. The thing that knocks it down for me is that it's any card, not just arrows. So you can, knock the death whistle could theoretically like reload a Ravenous Rabble, which is a little bit of a flavor fail. I think this has mostly been supplanted though by the cards that say put an arrow from your hand face up in your arsenal, which is why B tier for me. So Yichin and I say B tier. Rob, you say A tier. B tier.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, next up, Boost. I think it's a D tier.
I know you think it's D tier.
Okay, so Boost is a very parasitic mechanic. Boost just reads, as an additional cost to play this, you may banish the top card of your deck, and if the banished card is a Mechanologist card, this card gains Go Again. Boost has the hidden cost of saying your entire deck needs to be Mechanologist cards or Back Alley Breakline. That results in it being a very clunky mechanic to build around because the boost cards are all like terrible. They're all just vanilla damage. And it also means you lose access to stuff like defense reactions and good generic staples like Command and Conquer or E-Strike, so on and so forth. And, it just doesn't work in Limited. Like, we only saw Boost in Arcane Rising, which I think only 5 people total have played in the Limited environment for it, and then we saw it once again in Bright Lights, which everyone hates, apparently. I like it. I like Bright Lights Limited, but everyone hates Bright Light Limited.
Also like Bright Lights Limited. I think it's very good.
Bright Lights Limited. So that sounds like you're just making shit up.
Okay, all 3 of us like Bright Lights Limited. We're the only 3 people on the planet that like Bright Lights Limited.
Pretty sure Yuki said that she likes Bright Lights Limited.
Okay,
too.
Yuki's the 4th person that likes Bright Light Limited.
Well, we can do a
Pretty sure you can find
draft.
some. Yeah, maybe you're just making things up to make yourself seem more persecuted than you actually are.
As a professional Max player, I can tell you that Boost is a terrible mechanic. There's one good Boost card that was High Octane, and then High Octane got banned, and now there's not a single good Boost card left.
Does a mechanic have to be competitive to be good?
No, but this mechanic's also just parasitic. If
So?
it was
I
like,
don't think
Does
it's
it make it-
bad.
Parasitic doesn't necessarily mean bad either, though. There's some good parasitic mechanics.
name one good parasitic mechanic.
Boost.
Yeah. Want me to go through your list and see which ones you rate S on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Is Go Again a parasitic mechanic?
Mark.
Mark's
Mark is very
great.
parasitic.
Mark's on generic cards.
So it doesn't mean it's not parasitic.
Heroes can interact with Mark. Technically, any hero.
I would
can
say
interact
Clash
with
is also very parasitic.
Yeah.
Mark. Clash works. Like, you're
So
not
is Wager.
forced to only include Clash.
Well, then
cards
you're at
in
an
your deck.
A. Blood Debt.
Yeah, Blood Debt's great. I love Blood Debt. All right, but yeah,
Pair-
Parasitic.
Boost.
Pair is literally parasitic in the name.
Pair's great. I'll talk about Pair when we get to it. But back on Boost. Bad mechanic. The best Boost card was High Octane. The second best Boost card is 0 to 60. It's still 0 to 60. It's always been 0 to 60.
We've been talking about Reprise being an A, buddy.
Yeah, Reprise is great.
Name one playable Reprise card.
Iron Song.
Because they're all
response.
warrior
Sorry.
cards. Stupid.
Glint the Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't name the second one.
Glint. Iron Song
But
response.
you can name two. You can name two boost cards.
Because I play Max. I don't play Warrior.
Yeah. Grass is greener on the other side, buddy.
Yeah. It's really not. I've seen Warrior players complain more than Max players.
That's because there's more of them.
That's true, yeah. Alright, but back on Boost.
Anyway.
I think D tier.
I think it's a great mechanic. I like them. I like boost.
I put it as an A tier because I really like the crankshaft Big Bertha style crank cards or boost cards where you get effects as they boost. I think that's an interesting mechanic, and I hope they kind of dive more into that in the future.
What tier would you put in?
Like, think you get benefits for boosting. I think that's like a cool way of doing it.
I think in general it gives mech a strong identity that isn't seen anywhere else. And yes, it's a building. It's fundamental to the class and it's parasitic, but it's also one of the things that makes mech so unique and so fun to play. Right? Boosting is fun,
Yes.
and you're playing Max because you like to boost.
No, I'm playing Max because I like Nitromechanoid.
Yeah, and you know what gave you extra action points? Boosting.
It really didn't.
Because if you didn't like boosting, you would be playing fucking Time Snap Potion.
Yeah, but I can't play Time Snap Potion because Boost exists. I want to play Time Snap Potion. Time Snap Potion's great. I love it.
Yeah? Why aren't you playing Gravy then?
Because I'm playing Verdance right now. I'm playing Green Max.
Yeah? Where's your Time Snap Potion in Verdance?
Why
You
do
want
I
to send
need
2
Time
felony?
Snap Potion in Verdance?
I'm calling you a fake fan. I'm calling you are just complaining just to complain, okay? Boost is great. I will not have this boost slander by somebody who is not seen the depths of despair and is mad that his first world problem isn't immediately catered to.
Yeah. I think they need to print 0 to 70, which is a 0 for 5 card with boost. That would generally solve all my problems.
Yeah, they can print any good card and it'll solve a lot of problems.
They don't print it. They don't print.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah. I think if they're unwilling to print good boost cards, boost is a bad mechanic. But anyway, let's actually rate it after like 15 minutes. I put it as D tier. Rob.
I think I put it as B, but I can be argued for A.
Gichin.
I think it's an A tier.
Okay. I'll put it in A, but at the bottom of A. I still think it's D tier. All right, next up we have.
He didn't even split the difference. He just used my rating and just tried to like.
I'm appeasing to the majority, but yeah, Opt. Next
it's
up
because he likes Boost.
I don't like Boost. I hate Boost so much.
Why'd you give it an A then, buddy?
I'll put it down here. I'll put it in D. I don't mind that.
Put it back where it belongs.
All right, I'll put it in A. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up we have Opt. Opt to opt X, you look at the top X cards of your deck, and then you can put any number of them on the top and any number of them on the bottom in any order you want. I think it's an S tier. I think solid, classic mechanic
it's a
that
stock
comes from
standard
Magic.
TCG mechanic.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels there's something original or different about it. It's an average run of the mill mechanic.
It's less interesting here than it is in Magic because you see less of your next quote unquote draw. So it's mostly used for top deck mechanics, which it's fine. Like the top deck mechanics in Fab are fine, but like the utility of Opt is not particularly strong as strong as it is in Magic, and as a result, it's significantly less interesting to Opt.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, it's a lot more interesting in other games where you're only drawing 1 or 2 cards a turn rather than Fab. I can see that. So B tier.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Next up, Arcane Barrier. So Arcane Barrier reads, if your hero would be dealt arcane damage, you can instead pay resource equal to the Arcane Barrier points. In the case of Meld, Rune, Hood, it's Arcane Barrier 1, so you pay a resource, and you prevent 1 of that arcane damage. I think this is A tier mechanic. It's basically like the Battle Worn of arcane damage. The issue being that a lot of times heroes and classes don't have good arcane barrier equipment, so they can sometimes feel screwed against heroes that are dealing big arcane numbers like Kano or Facilio.
I think that they painted themselves in the corner with Arcane Barrier. I think they made the mechanic too strong, and as a result, everybody expects it makes the arcane design a lot harder because now you have to account for this when you're designing stuff like Surge.
Well, right, but Arcane Barrier does come with a cost. In the case of most heroes where they don't have Arcane in every slot, or Arcane Barrier in every slot, they're forced to play the Null Rune equipment, which just gives them Arcane Barrier 1 with no other effect. So I think that's why
I think it's bad, is because it's the mechanic is so strong, and because arcane damage is balanced around its existence, they can't make more of the temporary prevent damage effects relevant enough unless they really make it good, like Oasis. Because the entire design of Arcane is worked on the fact that you can you have a renewable source of unlimited arcane defense if you just give up your item slots. And as a result, I think they're wary about putting arcane barrier on things because they want arcane damage to be more evasive and surge to be more relevant than it currently is.
I can see that, but I think also the Null Rune equipment's a good just quote-unquote baseline to have for Arcane Barrier, where it's not doing anything except for Arcane Barrier.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I really don't like it from a limited perspective, and I don't like that. So I have a couple of problems, like where with Runeblade, it forces you to give up your equipment, while they kind of have no real cost on their side, and they, in theory, have cost of consistency, but we haven't seen that with heroes like Florian or Aurora as much, so I think there are things that are like a little too strong in one way or another, but I think it's not unfixable.
What do you feel is strong about Arcane Barrier?
You can fatigue really easily with it.
True.
And it's just like you can kind of like you could ignore arcane damage in limited environments if you had Arcane Barrier. So it's just like it's really strong. It's just you can fatigue them out.
True. Okay. I do like that they're not putting Arcane Barrier in limited sets anymore. Like Rosetta, we saw instead had Arcane Polarity, which gains you life if you've been dealt arcane damage, and then it also had Sanctuary of Arya, which was just a one-turn prevent damage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of the issues with Arcane Barrier now are just constructed because they don't want to use Arcane Barrier anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. So I initially said Arcane Barrier was an A. Rob, you said it was C and Yichin D.
Yeah.
I can see it as a C or a low B tier mechanic.
Works for me.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Next up is Temper. Temper is a keyword on equipment. Temper reads when the combat chain closes, if this defended, put a -1 defense counter on this, then destroy it if it has 0 defense.
Temper's just a cousin of Blade Break. I like it better than Battleworn.
Yishin?
Temper would be an S if Battleworn didn't exist. As it is, I think Temper is the third mechanic that we have to reduce armor power, and I wish we just kind of stuck with one. Also, mostly because of the flavor of these mechanics are very interchangeable.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with both of you. I don't like Temper. First and foremost, don't like the name. Battleworn, Blade Break are very conceptually easy to understand. Like Blade Break, you defend with it, it breaks. Battleworn, it gets worn but isn't destroyed. Temper, on the other hand, doesn't really mean anything if you initially look at it. And I think Temper has also resulted in a lot of the equipment creep we've seen, where LSS is just printing like better and better legendary equipment and then just saying, it has Temper, so it's okay because it's like a one-time use, or you can only defend with it once. And we see this on things like Grains of Bloodsprill or Apex Bonebreaker, where they have Temper, which allows them to be stronger than the other equipment pieces that would normally go in that slot. And then as a result of that, anytime they print new equipment, they have to take into consideration that warriors could just play Grains because it has Temper, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Yeah, so I initially said C, and Rob and Ichin, I think you both said A. How are you feeling about B?
Fine.
I like it top of B.
Top of B? Sure, I can see that. And I'll move this to the top of C. B for Bemper?
Yeah, Bemper.
All right.
We're bemping it. Yep.
Next up, Traps. So Traps, as they were initially debuted to us in Crucible of War, had the inherent text built into them that they could only be played from Arsenal. This changed with, I believe, Outsiders. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Where now they're just defense reactions with extra words on them. So I think it's an F because it's just a defense reaction. Wow, with extra words on it, and it doesn't.
I think that's a little disingenuous because it is a word that effectively has no meaning in the actual rules text, but it does signify that there is a conditional trigger that triggers to do something, right?
Well, but that's not really doing anything for the game itself,
Right,
right?
right. But neither is reprise, right? Like reprise and crush are both both words that don't actually mean anything, and it's the text that's associated with them on the card that gives it the meaning.
Yeah, at that point though, you could just make it a keyword. It doesn't need to be its own separate card type, and because most of the
it
traps,
doesn't need to be a card type because the conditions are different, right? It's broader than the keyword.
Okay, that's fair. I still don't like it though. I like the initial flavor of it only being able to be played from Arsenal, and now you can just play it from anywhere. Like Arachne can banish a trap and then play it from their banish zone, which doesn't really work for me. Like that's not really a trap. That's just an extra card they got in their hand.
Yeah, LSS has this issue where they are very willing to change up how mechanics work in order to make them play better, which I think is fine, but it does make the initial vision of the design a lot worse because it can just be easily changed if there's some friction to it and there's no like design challenge of being able to figure it out. So from a designer perspective, I think it's a C because it's just like I like the original idea of it. I don't mind how they are now, but it does feel like it is a lot of like we made this less interesting to make it play better, which is fine, but it just doesn't feel like it has enough of
I feel
sort of gumption.
I feel the same way. I just really like the flavor of the initial traps, so that's why it's lower on my list. Rob, how about you?
Yeah,
I think the idea of traps is interesting, at least how they were done in Crucible, but I think they got really clunky and they mean a lot less. They're just D-reacts with extra text now, so they feel like, as a mechanic, a little weaker to me.
Yep.
I do like all the mechanics that are around traps right now. I think the instant traps are pretty cool. The various ways that Arachne can tutor traps is pretty cool. But as the mechanic expands, it does feel like it's a little bit less interesting.
Yeah. D tier good.
This is also why I'm glad Intimidate is also now on reviled cards.
Yeah. D tier for traps.
That works for me.
Yep. Okay, next up, charge. So charge is an additional cost on certain cards, which just means you may, as an additional cost to play this, you may put a card from your hand into your hero's soul, and your hero's soul is just a zone underneath your hero. We initially saw this in Monarch on Bolton's cards, and light cards as well, but mainly on Bolton cards.
No, only Bolton cards.
Oh, only on Bolton cards. Okay.
I think it's C, but I think it's C for different reasons than you guys think it is.
I put charge in D.
I put it in D as well. I think it creates hands.
I think you guys dislike it for different reasons than I do.
Why do you dislike it?
Why don't you like it?
Same reason why I thought. So the reason why I like it is because they've stuck with the design and have tried to make it work within the confines of the original design. I think all of the newer, which is DTD basically, all the newer charge cards, and I guess the equipment from the Bolton Army deck, have leaned into Bolton's identity of needing to give up card advantage to create advantage, big spike turns later on. That is a pretty core part of the identity that they've stuck with and have resisted ways in that other people have dreamt of to make it more quote unquote user friendly. I think it's not a particularly easy way to easy like mechanic to design because it takes up so much text space. It's always like 2 or 3 lines to charge, and then you have to actually like give yourself a reason to charge, or like you have to build out a mechanic that cares about charging for you to actually pay off doing the charge. So it takes up a lot of text space, which I don't really like, but I do like the fact that they keep on sticking with the original design.
I don't like it for that reason. I think if a mechanic's bad, you can just kind of let it go. I think heroes...
like trap.
Well, let it go as in stop printing it.
Yeah, like trap.
They didn't stop printing traps. They just printed words.
They can't stop printing charge cards because Bolton is centered around charge cards, right? Well, if they want to support Bolton, they have to do charge charge mechanics, right?
They can just say goodbye to Bolton. He doesn't need to LL. Like, he can just stick around. He can be the dark horse forever, and that's okay.
Yeah, so they can print a charge card every now and then, that'd be fine, right?
Yeah, I guess, but the mechanic...
reasons why you dislike trap, you're also are like the opposite of why you dislike charge, and that to me is the rhetorical nightmare I have now trapped you in my labyrinth. Okay, I have defeated you completely and utterly in the marketplace of ideas.
Oh man, I'm cooked. No, but I think charge is a bad mechanic because it forces you to build your deck in a certain way, and it also forces Bolton, or the hero, well, Bolton specifically, to just like kind of eat damage if he wants to have even a decent turn. Like, you can't just play a one card hand. You need at least two, because one card you need to charge.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing though. One, Fab forces you to eat damage if you want to have a good turn. That's the fundamental design of the game.
Yeah, but the charge cards aren't like all particular. The charge cards aren't that interesting. All of them are either just this gets go again, or this gets plus power, or if this hits draw a card.
Draw a card, or this just charge. This puts itself in soul, or it does everything. It encompasses a wide variety of things, right?
Well, it all just feels very bland. It doesn't really like it doesn't feel anything special.
Right? Like you can say the same thing about basically like Warrior. All the Reprise cards do like plus power or draw a card or
right, but they do that as reactions, which feels more in line with a Warrior going into battle. That you let your guard down, or you didn't respect them enough, and now they get the upper hand.
Charge has been used in more different ways than any other mechanic in this list. Charge has been put on auras, has been put on equipment, has been put on virtual reactions, has been put on attacks.
And that to me says like it wasn't a good enough mechanic, so now we're just putting it on everything to make Bolton slightly better, or in hopes he'll become slightly better.
All your complaints are tied to the power level of Bolton, right?
Yeah.
If Bolton was good, if Bolton was like in a reasonable, healthy spot and Bolton was good, it would be a great mechanic.
Yeah, yes, I do agree with that one.
Yeah,
it's flavorful and it's interesting, but I think just mechanically it feels very clunky and frustrating for me when I played with it.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Oh, I'm the Bolton. I as the Bolton head, I think it's a great mechanic.
Then I'll let you rate it.
It's a C.
All right,
that's fine with me. Because
both Rob and I said D. You say C, so it is unfortunately going in D. We'll put it above Traps just to make you happier.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. All right, next up, Phantasm.
Your video. This is your channel.
Yeah, it's my channel.
Yeah.
Phantasm. Yeah. Phantasm is a mechanic appearing on Illusionist cards, which reads, when this is defended by a card with 6 or more power, destroy it. And it also has the additional text built in because of the rules that the attack does not resolve.
I hate this mechanic. I think this is I like the idea of the mechanic. It's interesting. Like, they get these overpowered attacks, but they're real, so a bigger these powerful attacks can pop it, but it just, and mechanically it's so bad to play into. Even playing Guardian, where I'm used to popping these, it's just like playing other decks where it's like, damn, if I have a popper here, I win the game. If I don't have the popper, I lose the game, and it just feels so coin flippy. It's very frustrating.
Yep. Added on to that, my complaints are that every single Phantasm support card literally just says the card loses Phantasm or negate the triggered Phantasm effect, which just means...
That's the normal part of a downside mechanic, right?
Yeah, but when if they were doing something interesting with it, then I could say this is my also issue with my previous.
You rated Blood Debt an A, but you have this as a complaint for Phantasm.
Yeah, Blood Debt's great.
Every card that interacts with Blood Debt and says Blood Debt on it is either counting the number of Blood Debt cards you have or negating it.
That's only on Levi. Levi is negating
Blood Debt.
Well, there's more than that too.
I feel like Blood Debt has a lot more interesting design space than Phantasm does.
Yeah.
I agree. I just think your complaints are invalid, Surian. So I'm giving you shit.
I think my
He's calling you the soy Wojak.
No.
Yeah.
My complaints
You are the soy Wojak. I am the Chad Jojak.
My complaints are real and valid and based, and that's why Phantasm is going in D. Spectra.
Okay, well, I think Phantasm a D for different reasons than you, because I'm more superior. No,
what are your superior and right reasons?
I will say this: the reason why it's not an F for me is because I do like that it has a wider metagame implication of making 6+ power cards more playable. I that's basically it. I just like the fact that you have to actually account for like whenever people see like a 6 or 7 power attack that's like generic but like kind of bad, their instant thought is, oh, it's a popper.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I like that mechanics existences can recontextualize cards to make them better.
All right, next up, Spectra. Spectra is a long and complex mechanic, so I'm going to let the level 2 judge explain what it does.
Yeah. It's just sits on the board. If you attack it, it pops and the chain closes.
Okay, do you get to keep go again?
No.
All right, so yeah, Spectra is a mechanic.
Was it that hard? It's not. It's like once you learn it, it's like not that hard. It's just that learning it is unintuitive.
Yeah. I think Spectra's an F.
I hate it as a mechanic.
Yep.
I understand what they were going for with the mechanic and with how classes were used to be designed and how like your chain ender used to be a weaker attack, so it didn't feel as punishing to like you wouldn't send a lava burst in. You would send like a Rosetta Thorn in, so it would, you know.
I don't know if I agree with that because I feel like chain enders in like WTR were either your combo finisher or were your second attack as Dory, right? Yeah, keep going, Rob. Keep running, Rob.
I just think that they've put classes in a space where like the chain enders are so important, or that you have such limited action points that it's very difficult to deal with Spectra. If they were to, I know they're designing more cards that help you interact with auras very recently, but I think as a whole, and someone who's played Prism versus Bravo, matchups can kind of suck and just not be fun to play into. When it creates the win disparities that it did, I don't think it's a good card for the game. Or it's a good mechanic for the game, rather.
I will add that my biggest issue with the mechanic is that attacks don't keep go again, so oftentimes, if you're in a class that doesn't have a lot of go again, like Guardian, your opponent just gets to time walk you if they drop a big enough or a significant enough aura with Spectra. Whereas in certain other classes, like Ninja, it probably doesn't matter as much, to where you can just go, okay, I'll do my whole turn, and then, I'll sneak in a Kodachi at your aura with Spectra. I don't like that it closes the chain. I don't like that it doesn't count as a hit, so your opponent effectively just gained all that life that your attack was supposed to go to. And I especially don't like Arclight Sentinel forcing you to attack into it, and it just says you don't get a turn. Yeah, F tier for me. Alright, Blood Debt. Blood Debt is a mechanic on shadow cards that reads, at the end of your turn, if this is in your banish zone, you lose 1 life. And we'll add that not every, but a lot of cards with Blood Debt also have that you can play this card from your banish zone.
Well, specifically, it's Shadow and Shadow Runeblade cards that do.
Yeah.
Shadow Brood cards are compounding Blood Debt, where you banish them to get Blood Debt. One of my biggest gripes with this mechanic is that it's very arbitrary what gets Blood Debt and what doesn't. Like, you can say, like, oh yeah, the attacks that you play all have Blood Debt so that you're not incentivized to put them on. Put them in, that's fair. But then there's some like random like Blood Debt cards that are just like have Blood Debt just for no reason. And I feel like a lot of these Blood Debt designs they tend to be pretty good. I just don't like how arbitrary Blood Debt feels. I think all shadow cards should have Blood Debt in some way.
I agree. I like that. I really like how Vincent plays. I think she has a very interesting class design. I like you playing cards from your banish. It reminds me of the old Suicide Black decks from Magic, where you would be giving up your life for these very powerful turns.
Rob,
I think that's a really cool
play style. You can't say that word on YouTube anymore. You have to say Sudoku.
Lure Sly. Okay,
yep.
Yes, Unalive. Yeah, the old Unalive Black decks.
Yep.
Big fan of those. Really like playing that archetype, so I'm curious what that... I'd like to see more of that stuff.
Yeah, I like that it puts a timer on shadow decks as well, to where if they are setting for a big turn, you as the opponent can kind of see that based on just the amount of cards with Blood Debt in their banish zone. I like the ways a lot of the cards interact with it, like the new, like the not the new anymore, but the Leviathan Demi hero, which cares about you going to 13 life with Blood Debt, or the other half requiring you to have 13 or more cards with Blood Debt in your banish zone. I think it's just a neat mechanic. Flavorfully, it's great as well because Shadow's all about banishing cards, and then you get both a positive and a negative for having these cards in your banish zone. But yeah, I do agree that sometimes it just feels random which cards do or don't have Blood Debt.
I think it's a very excellently designed mechanic otherwise.
Mhm.
I think that the ways they have created different archetypes from this mechanic are pretty admirable. Yeah, I just think it's a good mechanic. It's just a B because I think it's kind of arbitrary.
B. I think you think it's B for Blood Debt, but I think it's A for good.
So true.
A for
Out debt. Yep.
Ooh, ow, I'm taking damage.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Next up, Spell Void. Spell Void shows up on equipments and reads: if you would be dealt arcane damage, you may destroy this and prevent X of that damage, where X is the Spell Void value the cards have. So Spellthray Tiara has Spell Void 1, so you destroy it, prevent 1 arcane damage that's dealt to you. I like this mechanic a lot as well. I think it's good that it's a one-time thing, and it also doesn't require you to pay resources, so decks like aggro decks get use out of it, and it also doesn't feel too oppressive.
It's fine break for Arcane. I like it.
Yeah, it's there. It's the glue that holds the existence of Arcane Barrier in check. That isn't Arcane Barrier.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Yep. All right. A tier. Next up, Mentors. This used to be a keyword, then got folded into the Mentor type, but cards with the Mentor type read, you can only play this in your deck if your hero is young. Neither of you rated this mechanic, but my thoughts on the mechanic are pretty mixed because initially the first the first 4 mentors we got occupied your arsenal zone, which in Blitz was pretty much a game ender because they stuck around for 3 or 4 turns and then just kind of did nothing, or had an effect, but basically removed your arsenal zone from the game while they were around. Then mentors left. We got mentors back with the Reiner versus Dory Blitz decks, which were not good. And then finally, I think Arachne got a new mentor in the Hunted Blitz deck collection. So yeah, it's been used pretty sparingly. I don't like it. I don't think it really has any flavorful purpose either. D tier, if not F tier.
I mean, it has a flavorful purpose.
Well, but
It's
the
pretty
flavor's like
flavorful.
the flavor's like a bit lacking there. Why does Chain get to talk to a jar in a head? Why does Levi get to talk to just
He wears it.
lady?
Wait, did you not read the stories?
I did not read the Chain stories. No.
Right.
Sounds like you should read the stories before you criticize the flavor.
Yeah.
Oh damn. Well, you guys didn't rate it, so what are your thoughts on
We didn't
the
rate it because
mechanic?
it's a card type.
Yeah,
It
it's card type,
used
not
to
a
be a
mechanic.
keyword. It used to be a keyword.
I like how they live in the arsenal. I think that's a very cool idea, and I like that. I hope that they do more of that in the future.
What if you did like a saga that like lived in the arsenal? I guess that's kind of what they are.
That's what they are. Yeah.
A tier.
A tier. All right, Rob. What do you think?
I think they are. I think they are interesting. I also think I like it at A because I remember Molly used to play Kasai and Blitz, and like you would use the Bolton one, and it was pretty cool. It had some like cool interactions.
All right, I'm putting it in B. Next up, we have Essence. Essence means your hero can include cards of this type in your deck. So Essence of Earth and Ice means your hero can play Earth and Ice cards in their deck. Essence of Lightning means your hero can play Lightning cards in their deck, etc., etc. It's not really a mechanic. It's more so to save space on the type line for heroes.
I think it's mainly to give like them an additional generic pool, like to play elemental cards and then lightning cards, etc. For limited, and also it like dilutes the pool so you have less cards to fuse with.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it could Lexi, for example, could just read Elemental, Lightning, Ice, Ranger, Hero. That would be too long of a type line, but this mechanic's kind of there to just have that not happen. So it's not really a mechanic per se.
Yeah.
So
Whoa. Now you're saying that these ones we shouldn't have rated?
Interesting.
it is a keyword, but it's more so there to like simplify the type line from being too long. So yeah, D tier, F tier.
It's fine. It like it's not particularly like the purpose of it is whatever, but like it's not like offensively bad. It doesn't create bad gameplay.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's just like
Yeah.
It is the equivalent of a poor comment in like a code review.
Yeah.
It is like a note written on the receipt that you're reviewing for tax evasion.
Sick. Next up, we have channel. So channels and ability word. It mostly appears on the channel location cards from Tales of Aria, Rosetta, and so on. And it reads at the beginning of your end phase, put a flow counter on this. Then you destroy it unless you put cards from your pit zone of the type of the card from your pit zone to the bottom of your deck equal to the number of flow counters on this. So channel Lake Frigid is looking for ice cards being put from your pit zone to the bottom of your deck. Channel Lightning Valley cares about lightning cards. Channel Mount Heroic cares about earth cards, etc.
Takes up too much text.
I think it's a bit confusing for players initially.
I like
It's
it.
very wordy.
I think the mechanic is makes the cards. So here's the thing: there are a number of these mechanics that are only exist on permanents, solely for the purpose of finding creative ways to destroy them, and make them temporary. Spectra is one of them. Channel is the other one that they did in their first year. Channel is better than Spectra, but I think that it gets too wordy. It lets them increase the power level of these these cards in a way that's not controllable by either player. You can somewhat control it by making giving yourself a density of like earth cards or ice cards that you can draw into. But like for the most part, whether or not the CLF sticks around for 2 or 3 turns is 50% or more in the hands of God.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I can
it
agree
feels
with
like
that.
it because I've had games on the Yarl where I can keep CLF around for like 3-4 turns, and some games where I keep it around for 1 turn.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a world of difference for my opponent.
I think channel becomes a lot better when you look at it as specifically a 1-turn mechanic, and then that's sometimes also going to stick around for additional turns. Because as you said, it's not going to stick. It's generally not going to stick around for more than that first turn. So looking at the
they're balanced as if they can stick around for 1 turn only, but the ability for it to stick around for 2 or 3 turns makes it feel much more impressive. Especially when like I got to play Tome into like pitch like another Earth card and keep Channel Mount Heroic for like 3 turns.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. I think overall design's fine. It just has a bit of small pain points and rough edges that I don't really like to use too much.
Yep.
I wish it was like a saga where it was kind of designed around that, but it's fine.
I do hope we get sagas soon. Sagas are cool. All right, next up is Fuse or Fusion. So Fusion reads, as an additional cost to play this, you may reveal cards of that type from your hand, and if you do, it gets the fusion effect. So Earth and Ice Fusion cares about you revealing Earth and Ice cards. Lightning Fusion cares about you revealing a lightning card from your hand.
One of the biggest problems with Tales of Aria was that it had the highest word count on average. I think it still does per card, and it's entirely due to Channel and Fusion being on every relevant card.
I think these types of cards being wordy isn't too critical. They do have to spell it out every single time, but once you understand what Fusion is, it makes it a lot easier to parse. Same with Channel.
It also was not intuitive for new players.
Okay.
It is.
That is.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
And that's entirely due to Elemental existing as a type 2. Basically, like the idea is basically just like, oh, this is a bridge that makes the AB mechanic work for these heroes, and makes you feel like you're infusing something with elemental energy, whatever. I think it did pretty well on that. I also think that it creates some interesting design patterns where you design the elemental cards, so like Earth, Ice, Lightning cards, to be played from Arsenal and have benefits from being played from Arsenal. So you naturally want to fuse them and put them in Arsenal. I think that's cool. I just think that it has a couple of big downsides that make it tough to really bring back in a large degree.
Yeah, I'd mostly agree with that. I think I like that most of the fusion cards are on rate, and then you get an additional effect for revealing the extra card, so you basically basically you're not blocking with the card you're fusing with, and then you get an additional benefit based upon that, and then you also theoretically get to arsenal that card you fused with or keep it in hand or whatnot. So I do like that it forces you to consider whether or not you want to fuse and what benefits that fusion is really providing you, as opposed to simply just blocking with the card.
I like Fuse a lot more when we had Crown of Seats, personally, because it felt, much easier to clean out that blue Autumn's Touch in my arsenal. And I was like, man, this is fine. This is, a way to just move these cards around. I liked it a lot on Lexi, where you could just kind of, with New Horizons, you could flip it and then get the extra arsenal slot. There was interesting things there.
You know what's really good, like Guardian Fuse card though? Pulse of Isolov.
Oh, what a card! What a card, man.
Also, I think Guardians were intended to run Summerwood Shelter as well.
It almost made it in the Yara lists. I think the card is actually pretty sick. I also love just like going mulch and then fusing it with a Felling of the Crown or like a Plow Under. It just feels so nice. Yeah. You're like, damn, this is a real cost to how I play.
It's an alright mechanic. B tier. Next up, Heave. So Heave. Pretty wordy mechanic, but Heave 3, for example, means that at the beginning of your end phase, if you have an empty arsenal zone, you can put the card with Heave face up in your arsenal, then pay resources equal to its Heave number. So in case of Heave 3, you pay 3 resources, and if you do, you make 3 seismic surge tokens in the case of Heave 3, and it just tells your opponent that, hey, this big attack, you see this Pulverize, that's coming to your face next turn.
I really like Heave. I gave it an A because I like that it gives Guardian another play besides Pummel. It can allow you to bluff a Pummel. It allows you to force your opponent to think about your attack. An overblock, like the amount of times I've gotten people to overblock and then arsenaling heaving a Pulverize has felt incredibly rewarding. And it also kind of thematically, it's like a Guardian charging up like a big attack to hit you. It's also telegraphed because they see what it looks like, so they know how to block and how to kind of play around it.
My biggest, I guess, both positive and downside to the mechanic as well is that once the card is in your arsenal, you can it does not matter what happens to the card. So, for example, you could just my favorite thing to do was heave a Pulverize, then Crown of Providence it away if my opponent presented any sort of good numbers, and then I just got 3 Seismic Surges for, say, a Crippling Crush or anything like that, which is both a positive and a negative, right? Because it makes Seismic Surges, so it applies to all Guardian cards, but at the same time, then you've basically gotten 3 Seismic Surge tokens, and you're not using it for the quote-unquote intended purpose of playing out Pulverize. You're now instead using it on another attack.
I think it's important to be able to, switch your game plans, though. Like, if you're committing to something, but it's important to be able to pivot.
I think it creates too many rules issues and it has too many words. That's basically my gripes with it. I think the gameplay is fine. The big problem I have with the design of Heave that pushed me to D, because it's not a mechanic that can exist in more than really 2 numbers. It's either Heave 2 or Heave 3. But this is a problem with a lot of Fab mechanics, so I can't knock it too much, but it's more just like the number's just there. If you really wanted to do it, like Heave 3 was the only thing that existed for a long time. It was only on 2 cards. And then Heave 2 came out, and that's, miles better, just because it's so easy to have 2 resources left over. And so if you have 2 numbers, one of them is basically like 5% use, and the other is 95% time you're going to use this. It feels like I don't know about ways, just inelegant. Heave is a terrible word.
Heave is a terrible
at least for
word.
the
I think
for the action that's happening. Heave is the thing that happens after you wind up, right? You're heaving a rock at them.
I think they should have called this mechanic charge and deleted charge from the game.
Say wind up.
No, but then we have the other wind-ups.
Or like focus, or like surge. I guess we already surge as a mechanic, but like focus 3.
Alright, B tier. Well, just to clarify, I said B, Rob said A, and Eachin said D. So just compromising.
If you're constantly averaging this, then we're gonna
have way too many Bs.
Well, B's being the most popular, B's and C's being the most popular is kind of the intent.
Way too many Bs. I don't know. We'll worry about that later.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Quell. Quell is so Quell 1 says, if you would be dealt damage, you may pay a resource instead. If you do, prevent 1 of that damage, and then you destroy this equipment at the end of your turn. Quell to me just feels very clunky because you can only apply it once to a source of damage, but then you also get to use it for other sources later in the turn. It just feels very clunky. It takes up too many words on the card.
I changed my rating from B to C because
We have too many Bs.
I also think that it says Quell 1, and also because I think we have too many Bs.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's put it. It feels clunky. It's yeah.
Yep. Nothing really to say about this mechanic. It just sort of it's a limited mechanic. I don't think any Quell equipment has seen prominent constructed play.
It has.
Which one?
I'm sure it has.
I don't know. I just said that.
Oh, Alan was on quelling
Yeah.
slippers for a while. Alan Luber, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I think maybe people played Silken Form for like a little bit, but like
Oh yeah, it did.
Yeah.
they moved off of it to Seeker's Mitts pretty quickly.
Yeah. All right. Next
Well, they
up.
liked it because you could bitch to it, so like it was good for Dromai. But yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Next up, we have Rupture. Rupture cards care about being played as Chainlink 4 and higher. This mainly shows up on, or this exclusively shows up on Draconic cards. I think.
S tier. This card.
S tier.
Yeah.
This shit rocks.
Yep.
It's flavorful. It's mechanically interesting. It's fun to play, and it's counterplay.
Would you rate it as an A, Strigan? What do you?
I thought I was giving out too many S's, so I put it in A. But yeah, no, I agree.
You changed Rupture to an A instead of like Go Again.
Dude, Go Again is great.
Huh?
Go Again's like the backbone of the game.
It's a modular.
Modular's
Yeah.
great. When we get to Modular, I'm happy to talk about why that's S tier. Alright, next up, Afflictions. Afflictions are a card type, and they enter the arena under the control of an opponent, and they usually destroy themselves at the end of the opponent's turn. They're kind of like hexes from Magic. C tier.
They're a card type.
Yeah.
Not really mechanic.
Yeah, it's a card type.
C tier. Oop.
They've used it much less than I hoped they would.
Yes, I would like it more.
Yeah, I think flavorfully it's really hard to design heroes around Afflictions, and even mechanically too.
It's a debuff.
It's a debuff, but then you have to kind of justify it. Like in the case of Icelander, it makes at least a little bit, or Ice and Icelander, it makes a little bit sense because, you know, Ice is all about slowing down your opponent. But no other class or talent really embodies that aspect. Shadow could maybe get something.
I would love like a Shadow Witch that would do that. Or Affliction like as a reaction would be really cool.
Assassin, well, Outsiders classes, Ranger and Assassin kind of got that in the form of the diseases from Outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
they're literally Afflictions. They're literally Afflictions.
Next up is Freeze. So Freeze is a mechanic that appears on a lot of cards, and frozen permanents or objects can be activated or played. So if a card in your arsenal is frozen, you can't play it. If your equipment's frozen, you cannot activate that equipment, but you can still defend with it. I think we all really like Freeze, right?
Yeah, it's thematic, it's interesting, and I want more cards with it, so please bring Ice back.
It's not Ice. It's not S because it doesn't actually like turn off half the things that you expect it to turn off.
But I feel it's solid, A tier, very thematic, very flavorful, and kind of slows your opponent down in a very interesting way, as opposed to things like just Frostbites or Afflictions. The other mechanic that you all refuse to rate, Unfreeze. It does appear on one card exactly, which is Thaw, and Unfreeze just means...
We're gonna spend all day here, man.
Next mechanic, please.
Alright, Unfreeze is a C. It's very limited in its design. It could even be D tier, honestly. Yeah. Next up, Material. Material cards have an effect while they are under other permanents. So Galvanic Bender, for example, gives the permanent above it +1 power. The Ashes that Dromai had gave the permanents or the dragons above them Phantasm, so on and so forth. I think this is solid. I'm sad we didn't see more of this in Bright Lights, because it's very interesting that you have like essentially a base equipment or a base object that allows the object above it to get certain effects.
I like it as well. I give it an A.
They haven't used it too much. It's cool. Can open up some great opportunities. I'm biased, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's also got a lot of interesting design space. All right, next up we have Transform. So Transform just means the permanent you target becomes another permanent. In the case of the Invocations and Constructs, you transform them into their backside. In the case of Evos, you just plop them on top.
It's B because Awaken and Transform are basically like the same mechanic but slightly different, and dilutes the coolness of each individual mechanic.
Agreed.
B4.
Best form came first, so it gets a higher score.
Yeah, B4 Bance form. Ward.
Yep.
Ward reads, if your hero would be dealt damage, prevent damage equal to the ward number of it. So in the case of Ward 4, it's going to prevent 4 damage. Ward 1, which appears on Spectral Shields, prevents 1 damage. And then you destroy the permanent with Ward as well.
I like it a lot as a mechanic. I know I've been very critical and outspoken about parts of Ward and classes with Ward, but I think it's interesting with counterplay. I think when you have permanents with Ward that attack, I wish I could attack them back, but I really enjoy the game situations I can put people into, especially with flick knives and playing around with Ward.
It's one of the few fab mechanics where the numbers mean something and that they aren't wildly imbalanced.
Yeah, the only reason I don't like Ward is because it might as well just read to gain a nebulous number of life between 1 and X, where X is the ward amount. I feel on certain heroes like Enigma, it made the game unfun to play. But yeah, I like Ward mostly. So A tier.
I gave it an A.
Yeah.
Like being able to blow out a sand cover with flick knives is incredible.
True. Next up, Negate. Negate just means it doesn't resolve. Negate cards have a very narrow design space because, getting your card negated is a lot worse in Flesh and Blood than in, say, Magic. And as such, Negate cards just feel narrow, don't feel good to play, don't feel good to be on the receiving end of.
It's less of a, in a lot of situations, it's less of a mechanic and more of a necessary thing to just have to make the game work, like with Evo cards. Null Shock and the more recent other Negate cards are pretty cool, and I think they have some pretty cool applications, so I don't completely hate it.
It feels so limited with how many non-attacks that are being played, and because you can't negate an attack action. It just feels somewhat limited. It's not like a counterspell in Magic. I feel like it's too narrow.
Yep. F tier. Alright, next up, Overpower. Overpower reads, this can only be defended by 1 action card. So you can only defend with up to 1 action and any number of equipment, any number of both attack reactions and defense reactions. I think it's S tier. It's fixed, dominate. It doesn't feel too oppressive offensively or defensively. Just feels good to play. It feels good to play against.
I really like how reactions can be used. Any reaction can be used to block. I think that's cool. Yeah, I'm very happy with Overpower as a mechanic.
Why'd you choose a card that has so much other text other than Overpower?
There's a lot of cards with a lot of text on them, and I like Nitromechanoid.
Yeah, it's a good mechanic, good evasive mechanic. Encourages running non-actions.
Next up, Piercing. So Piercing reads, if this is defended by an equipment, it gets plus X power, where X is the piercing value, so Piercing 1 gives it +1, Piercing 3 gives it +3, and so on. I think just B tier mechanic. It's like nothing too special about it, nothing too crazy about it, but nothing too oppressive or overtly overpowered about it.
It's one of those mechanics that I still think should have just been no numbers, because Piercing 1 is the same as Piercing 3, basically. There's very little difference between Piercing 1 and Piercing 3.
Alright, next up, Surge. So cards with Surge care about dealing more damage, more arcane damage than their base arcane damage. So in the case of Overflow the Aetherwell, it deals 3 damage, but then if it deals more than 3 damage, you gain 2 resources.
I really like the idea of Surge, of if you power it up enough and eventually you get this super effect on it. It feels at least reminiscent of Kicker to me. I know it's not the same, and it's much harder, but I think it's a cool idea, and it forces your opponent to interact with you with Arcane.
I think it's not really Kicker, because it's the payoff for Kicker, but you don't have a way to get the Kicker effect until you combine it with other cards. I think it's it's nice in that. I just think it's a terrible mechanic when Arcane Barrier exists, because you cannot design or it's very hard to design a surge effect that can feel like it's doing something impactful, unless your opponent, because you have to account for varying levels of Arcane Barrier. So Surge's existence means that AMP has to be at certain thresholds.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that about Arcane Barrier, actually I agree with you more. because even if your opponent's on Arcane Barrier 1, you need to pump the spell with Surge by at least 2 to ensure you get the Surge effect, because if you don't pump it at all, then your opponent AB1s, you don't get the Surge effect. If you pump it by 1 or amp 1, your opponent AB1s, you don't get the Surge effect. It's kind of an interesting threshold that you have to establish for yourself, where you need to scale it up to really get the Surge effect. And I feel there's also a pretty
You have
big...
to scale up beyond. Yeah. You either have to scale up beyond to the point where your opponent can interact with it, or you have to design the surge effects in a way that your deck isn't built around it because you can't reliably get them off.
Yeah, and there's also a pretty big disparity between the surge effects. I know that's more so like a card power level thing, but certain surge effects are like draw 2 cards, and then certain surge effects are like gain a life.
Yeah, well, it's mostly just that the Open the Floodgates is built around or costed around getting off the surge effect, right?
Yeah,
So it costs 2 instead of 0, like all the other zaps.
Yeah. So I initially said B, but I think this can safely go down in C.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm down to put it lower. I thought about it from a vacuum, but with Arcane Barrier, it makes it much worse.
Yep. Next up, Ephemeral. Cards with Ephemeral cannot start the game in your deck, and if they would be put into your graveyard, you destroy them. It's basically just a way to get tokens in your hand.
It doesn't play intuitively.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue with it. D tier. Next up, Contract. So Contract is an assassin mechanic that is looking for certain types of cards. In the case of Leave No Witnesses, it's looking for red cards. If you banish cards of that type while that attack is on the chain, on the combat chain, you complete the contract and you get a silver token.
Basically, it's fulfill condition, get reward.
My biggest issue with the mechanic is that they've kind of exhausted what Contract can do. Dynasty gave us a Contract card for pretty much every single card out there. We got one for actions, non-attack actions, cards with cost 1 or more, cards with cost 2 or less, 2 or more, red cards, blue cards, yellow cards, etc., etc., and all of the Contract cards were not very good.
Leave No Witnesses.
I agree.
Yeah.
Surgical
check.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 good Contract cards.
I think the main issue is that it's not that the design space is too narrow, it's that the design space that they've carved out for themselves is entirely dependent on matchups in a game where sideboards naturally have limited amounts of space. The way contract cards are designed now are either the non-contract part of the effect is so good that you just run them anyway, or you have to pick and tailor your contracts to the matchup, which is totally fine if sideboard space didn't exist. But because it does, you have to go with the most ubiquitous ones, like Not Like the Armed or like Slay the Scholars. The new contract cards are also, you can fulfill the contract pretty easily 90% of the time, or you can't do it at all. I think it's very flavorful. I think you can make contract cards that are good. I think that the current contract suite is not particularly interesting because all of the contracts are dependent on what your opponent's doing.
Flavorfully, I like Contract a lot. So, C for Contract?
Yeah.
C for Contract. All right, next up, Stealth. Stealth by itself doesn't mean anything. And then there are cards that interact with Stealth. B.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't have text. Don't need text.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Don't need talk.
Next up, Awaken. Flip it. That's all Awaken does.
Yep. C.
Yep. C.
C.
Transform, but copycat.
Transform,
exactly.
Transform.
It's just transform, but lamer because it's copying what Transform did.
Yep. Next up, Soul Flare. Cards with Soul Flare care about being charged. I think this is a C because it's like trying to fix charge. So C for charge.
It is not C. It's not trying to fix charge. It's trying to make charge, it tries to make charge better. I think that it's a lame mechanic because it relies on another mechanic.
Yep.
It's a barnacle.
It's a barnacle. That is true. I'd say C. Rob.
I gave it an F, but
D.
D. Okay, we can move it to the same tier.
Yeah, put it in D.
I'll put it above charge. Next up, Runegate. So cards with Runegate have, if you control Rune Chance equal to this card's resource cost, you can play this from your banish zone for free. I think this is a good Vincent mechanic who gets Vincent start turn, she banishes a card from her hand. It kind of plays really well with that design. My biggest issue is that they can feel very swingy because oftentimes your opponent just has like Chain Links wide Runegate turns or is just going banish a card from hand, pass.
I think that it's Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's I think the worst parts of the mechanic are that it's a threshold mechanic rather than like a scaling mechanic. So it can feel very all or nothing, and they have to really walk a fine line of balance. If this card costs nothing, is it fair? If this card costs plays out from your hand, is it fair? And more often than not in DTD, they sided with the balancing it around playing it for free. And as a result, Vincent's been very clunky to play for a long time because of how this threshold mechanic works.
Yeah. I like the idea of the mechanic. I think it's really interesting. It gives her a cool way to have power turns, but it can be very bricky, and if you're not experienced into playing into it, it can feel very frustrating.
B tier? C tier?
Yeah, it's fine. B tier.
B tier. Okay. Unity. We're going to disagree on this. Unity is when this defends together with a card from hand, you do the effect. Why do you guys not like this mechanic?
Oh, it's because I thought of United We Stand first. And I thought it required party. I think it's a B tier otherwise.
Okay, Rob.
I think I think I did the same thing because like I really liked Starstruck Block make a surge.
Yeah.
And then throw Spinal up.
I think it's fine. I think I rated F based off of only United We Stand.
Okay.
The other card.
Next up, United We Stand and the party mechanic. F tier because it does not exist right now. PvE coming out tomorrow, guys. Trust me. James White is my uncle. He works at LSS. Next up, Mirage. Cards with Mirage have when this is defending a card with 6 or more power, destroy it. It appears on only one card, I'm pretty sure.
It's reverse Phantasm. I hate it.
It's everything that's bad about Phantasm, except you can't build your deck around it, so it's even worse.
All right, F tier.
It's like it doesn't like add anything to the deck, basically. It just like other Phantasm cards, you can like build around it, and like there's other things that interact with it. Mirage is just like, oh, you have a shrink card? That's the only thing that interacts with it.
Okay, next up, Ambush. Ambush means while this card is in your arsenal, you can defend with it. In my opinion, this is just a defense reaction with like extra words on it. It only appears on Tiger Eye Reflex, which is a block card, so it's already like halfway there to a defense reaction card. And then Down and Dirty had it for like 2 days before getting on Eroded.
Yeah, it's just kind of boring.
Yep.
See, just because it's like it works. It's like a functional like.
I like the idea of having block cards that work from Arsenal, but not wanting to give it the strength of a D-React. I'm okay with that, but fine. It is a little bland.
C tier. We'll compromise. So Rob gave it a B. I gave it a D. Eachin gave it a C, so we'll compromise. Okay, next up, Tower. Tower reads, while this card has 13 or more power, you get an additional effect. I like this mechanic a lot because I feel it kind of encompasses what Guardians want to do. I like that you can turn it on in multiple ways, either through playing pumps before you play the attack or through playing reactions after you play the attack. And plus it also creates a bit of a mini game for the opponent where they have to decide whether or not you will be able to get that tower effect off if you haven't pre-pumped it, and them needing to play around that if able.
I think I like the idea of Tower more than I like Tower. I think a lot of this, like Smack of Reality, has been playable at various points, but the other ones just don't feel interesting, and I feel like we don't have enough good ways to pump attacks when we have auras without Go again. So we'll see if that changes, but I think Tower is only an okay mechanic, but it could get better.
Power level that you can afford to Tower cards is inversely correlated with the power level of the actual card.
Yep.
Okay, I can see that.
C.
C. Sure, I'll put it in C as well. All right, next up, Protect. When another player is attacked by an opponent, you can defend for them, essentially. It's a very it's not viable in constructed or 1v1 constructed, but it's viable in UPF and PvE when that eventually releases.
I like it because I think it's nice to have a group hug mechanic, but it's pretty bland otherwise.
Yeah, it's very bland.
Yep. B for bland. All right, Modular. I have my whole script prepared for this. So Modular reads you can equip this to any equipment zone, and then Modular also has the action 0, move this to another equipment zone. I like Modular a lot. I like that Mechanol just gets an equipment that can be used anywhere instead of being forced into a certain slot, and I like that you can play multiple copies of it. Like you can just run 3 adaptive plating if you want. I like it a lot. And plus, modular equipment gets to have all of the keywords. So far we have Blade Break and Arcane Barrier, but I could see a modular equipment coming from Temper, coming from Guardwell, coming with Spell Void, and so on.
What you've said is the entirety of the design space for Depth. The issue is that it's a keyword that we have specific like design spaces for each equipment slot, and for a card to be modular, you have to design it so that it can reasonably be run and you don't have any redundancies. Like you don't have 2 action points that you can get because you have a modular thing that gives action points and a legs that gives action points. And so I think that it's a keyword that is not defensive, but can only be found on defensive cards. And that makes it significantly less interesting to me. I think the idea of it is fine, but you can also just write out mecha equipment, head, chest, arms, legs, and just have it be like, oh, you can equip this to any slot. It feels like it's a waste of space. It's cool. The moving around is, I guess it's a thing, I guess. But there's not enough mechanics to interact with it yet that make it feel like it's a truly interesting mechanic. It's mostly just as like a flexible sideboard slot that takes up either one or the other thing, and basically makes your sideboard more flexible.
I am in a similar boat. I don't think it does anything. Like, I really like the armor system with how each spot correlates to certain actions, and this just kind of makes it more bland and not interesting. I have never played a game where someone moved something and it was like, wow, that was a really cool play that they moved their armor around.
That's because Evo sucked as a whole. But you
Not
don't
even
want
that. It's like Fabricate, like it's fine, but like you're not gonna run this with Fabricate.
So Rob and Eachin, you rated it as C and D respectively. I'm fine putting it in C.
So why is it everything you rate super highly and then we don't? You can easily be talked down from this ledge.
I am
Ride or dies.
peer pressure.
Ride or
This is
die.
what this is. Peer pressure. I'm getting peer
Speaking of
pressure.
Ride or Dies, I love Galvanize.
I hate Galvanize.
Galvanize,
I will
goated.
not budge on this.
Goated!
Galvanize.
Yeah, it's so-
There's one good Galvanize card, and it is Golden Skywarden, and that is it. The rest of the mechanics suck.
Soup up, adaptive plating.
Swoop up.
Swoop ups is 0 for 4 with Go again. That's what it is.
Adaptive plating.
Adaptive plating is good because it has modular. Apart from that, it is bad.
It's good because it blocks
let me
free
go.
uses
Galvanize
the item that you already
reads,
use.
when this defends, you may destroy an item you control, and if you do, the card generally gets +1 or 2 defense, and then gets some additional effects. Yeah, usually 2. I think the issue with Galvanize is that the cards with
You can also
Galvanize...
create cogs with it, by the way.
Yeah. The issue with Galvanize is that the cards with Galvanize, are just 3 blocks that have been demoted into 2 blocks because they have Galvanize. And then it forces you to have items out in order to get their full effect. And
No. Whoa. First of all, it is a way for you to get value out of items that you otherwise won't have use for, right?
Correct.
well, but it's also a way for you to completely break yourself if you don't have items out. Like, or you have items you don't want to destroy. Like you have a Teklo core out with 2 counters on it, or 1 counter on it still. You don't want to destroy it, and then you're like, well, if this was a 3 block, I wouldn't have had to destroy it, but now I'm stuck with a stupid
that's how
Galvanize card.
opportunity costs. That's like how opportunity costs work.
Yeah, but the cards
right?
with Galvanize aren't interesting either. Like, Soup Up's the most interesting one because it gets go again if an item has been destroyed. Name one other good Galvanize card.
Torque tuned.
I've never read that card in my life.
Because you didn't play Bright Lights Limited. You've never played Torque tuned. Fake fan.
Yeah.
I don't like Galvanize at all. I'm not budging on it. I think it's staunchly D tier.
I think
I
you
think
are
you're nuts.
a bad person.
I think you're being contrarian because you don't think Mech is good.
I think your brain has been frazzled by years of mech staring at bad rectangles. You need to look at good rectangles.
Yeah, Golden Skywarden is the only
Like
good
Torque Tuned.
rectangle with Galvanize.
Yeah, but you're playing Verdance now, so shut up, Cringe Lord.
I'll compromise slightly. I'll put it up in C tier, but I'm not going any further up than that.
It's S tier.
It is
Is it-
not.
That is
viewers-
a mechanic. It's actually so well designed.
Viewers of Toxino, let it be known that Surian's opinion is bad.
Okay, I will put it up in A tier. just for you guys, but it's D tier.
Please comment in this video why you love
we got
Galvanize so much, and it should be S tier.
Oh,
We
Please
got
write a
is-
comment talking about how good Galvanize is.
We got him. We got him. It's fine. It's fine. We already got him to compromise 3 grades up.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm not compromised. I'm doing this just so you guys feel good about yourselves. If it
That's
helps
what
you feel
compromising
great.
is. That's what compromising is.
I still think it's D tier. Okay. Anyway, next mechanic, Crank. Crank is where's Crank? There.
Oh, you've got one.
Evo upgrade. We don't need to talk about it. D tier.
Yeah, that shit.
It's it's a mechanic that relies on another mechanic, so it's kind
Yeah,
of
but anyway, yeah, Evo upgrade reads this
D tier.
gets additional effects based on the number of Evos you have equipped. In the case of this card, whose name I forgot, it gets plus X power, where X is the number of Evos you have equipped.
Okay, we don't actually have to go to Evo upgrade. We can skip this.
Okay, Crank. So Crank is on items. It says, as this enters the arena, you can remove a steam counter from it. If you do, gain back your action point. I think this makes a bad card type into an okay card type. And it's just like fixing, it's like a band-aid fix to the item mechanic as a whole, which sucked to play before Crank was a thing.
I disagree. I think before Crank was a thing, you played a decent chunk of items. You played, like, not only did you play like Tecla Pounder, like all the usual like dash cards, Tecla Core, the 2 pistol items. Like, there are certain French builds that played what's it called? When the thing that gives Dominate, like people played Hyper Driver. Like,
Well,
pretty
right,
early
that's
on,
mainly
too.
because Dash got to tutor them, right? Because otherwise drawing items is miserable. You draw
They play them out
non-block-
normally too.
Sometimes, right? But they never wanted to go like,
You
oh man.
had so much free Gogan. It was basically it just cost a card for your deck for the most part. Or you go like pistol and you instead of attacking it, you just drop down an item.
Yeah, but I want to attack again. I wanna...
yes they are bad, but like items are playable without Crank. Not only are you talking about like mech cards, but like plenty of generic items see play. Not the Everfest ones. Like most of the Everfest ones.
It's just healing potion Verdance. Kano uses energy potion because he plays on his opponent's turn.
People played Time Slap Potion. People played Strength Potion back then too.
That seems so bad.
That's what you did because you couldn't. There wasn't enough offensive overlap.
Wow, that's so sad.
So anyway, Crank, I recommended my grade from A to S. Why is it A? Why is it S? Because Crank is a cool mechanic, especially with Puffin. Puffin Crank is sweet, especially like creating cogs and getting them for Stu to go in, blinking cogs or like recycling cogs, or like finding ways to like get extra action points from Crank. 90% of Dash IO is because of why Dash IO is fun is because of Crank shenanigans.
Agreed.
No, 90% of Dash, because Dash gets around that cost. Dash gets to play them from the top of her deck, and then she also has a built-in tutor.
Crank makes this quote unquote banding mechanic into something that's very interesting.
Yeah, but it's like it's tied to another mechanic, which is items, and items like are not good.
Items aren't mechanics; they're card type.
Okay, items are not a good card type.
They're fine.
Yeah, they're
There
fine.
are more playable items than there are playable actions percentage wise.
So, how are you feeling about this? I think it's C tier.
I love it. I give it an A.
S.
S. Okay, I'll put it in A just to make you guys happy.
Certified compromise moment.
God damn. Okay, next up, Scrap. Cards that Scrap have as an additional cost to play this, you may banish an item or equipment from your graveyard, and then they get additional effects based on whether or not you scrap cards. Solid mechanic.
Every criticism you leveled at me about items, about Crank, can be applied to Scrap. Why is this an A?
Because I like Junkyard Dog. I got that dog in me.
Exactly. It's an S. It's also an S.
Yeah.
I gave it an S.
Yep.
I like how our ranking just spells ass.
Yeah.
Good. Next up, Heavy Hitters Clash. So Clash is the clashing heroes reveal the top card of their deck. The hero who reveals the card with the highest power wins the clash. I like that almost every hero gets to utilize it in some form or another. Certain heroes, of course, don't play as many attack action cards, but this is a good way of having the mechanic as opposed to what Magic did, where you compared the mana cost of it. It's very flavorful with heavy hitters and that whole theming of heroes just bonking each other. It's used in very interesting ways. You get certain things for winning, such as tokens. Solid mechanic. Heroes interact with
I don't
Clash.
believe what you're saying.
Okay, why do you guys...
I think it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask.
I don't like the mechanic mainly because of Victor, because how much reward is put on clashes. I think for cards like Clash of Might, Clash of Vigor, where it's just like a point of value is fine, but where you're drawing a whole card or getting a whole action point, I find those to be very frustrating and can create problems in games.
I think that when compared to the Magic mechanic, which is an F, by the way, in Magic,
Yes, that is a dog shit mechanic.
it's such a bad mechanic. Is much better. I do think that
Yeah, I
it
agree
still
with that.
has the issues of that Magic has, which is like you can't. Yeah, your deck has to be built in a way that's like non-standard. But Fab is more tolerant of like non-standard deck archetypes than Magic is, so it makes it a little bit less of a. It makes it a little bit more cool because it's like, oh yeah, my deck is more powerful than yours, so I'm just gonna win this more. And because my top decks aren't like 40% non-hits.
I think it adds a fun mini game. Like Test of Strength's just a on-rate block card, and then you're adding a fun mini game to it where the winner gets something. And I like that.
I can be convinced to A.
Yeah,
I think be convinced to A.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't like how I agree that Rob that it feels pretty swingy. But I can be convinced to change this to an A.
I could be as well.
Yeah. Clash is good.
Victor's not fun, but I think it does run into a density issue. I think they created an interesting tension where the good clash cards are all block cards. So the more clashes you want to have, the less likely you're able to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an interesting tension, but it also creates those feel bad moments of, oh, I trounced for 2 trounces.
Just build a nice deck, buddy. Build a better deck. Yep. Anyway, next mechanic is Wager. So Wager is added onto attacks and reads if the attack hits, you win the wager and you get the effect. If not, your opponent gets the effect.
At the time of its release, I think it was a very good mechanic because I think it created ways to create on hits without necessarily creating on hits.
And you could. I like that you could choose whether or not to wager. I enjoyed that as a mechanic.
It definitely created a lot more of interesting decisions with Heavy Hitters Limited. Looking back on it from current context, especially with Hunted, I think it's probably more a low A, high B. But I think it's overall like pretty decent mechanic.
I think it's solid. Heroes get to do interesting things with Wager, like Olympia just gets another gold token on top of it. Olympia being bad is a separate issue, same with Betsy, but I like that. You're essentially asking your opponent to block this out, and they get an effect for blocking, and you also get an effect for attacking with it. So, I feel it's A tier. Alright, next up, Beat Chest. Beat Chest is a brute mechanic, which means as an additional cost to play this, you can discard a card with 6 or more power, and then cards with Beat Chest care about you having beaten Chest for that turn. So if you beat Chest on Bonebreaker Bellow and then play another one, it'll see that you've beaten Chest this turn and apply the effect as well.
It's lame. It goes against a lot of brute design by conceding to players who want to play brute but don't want randomness. It is something that doesn't feel particularly interesting because the cards that do beat Chest are not particularly interesting. And it's just it's just another way of making slightly different discard effects in brute that makes the deck a lot tougher to assemble and make.
Yeah, it feels kind of high rolling, like whether or not you draw the two brute the beat chest cards together. None of them felt particularly interesting. Mm-hmm. They felt very just limited filler. Maybe I would like the mechanic more if we had a card that felt like I would want to see it constructed and play with it, but it just felt pretty medium.
Yeah, I think they also. I think now that Ichin and Rob, both of you guys were talking about it, it made me realize that this is making the downside of brute non-existent, which I don't like. I don't like brute design that's just oh, your downside, you get to ignore that. And Beat Chest is kind of just that. So, C tier.
Beat Chest is charged, but without the support that charge has.
It is. That's actually so true. Real. But it's a D tier mechanic. If this is charged, that would
true. Yeah. Okay.
This is charged as it existed in Monarch.
All right. Next up is Universal. Universal reads this card is the same class as your hero in every zone. It only appears on one card, which is Wage Gold.
Fine.
It's neat.
Yep. Nothing more to say about it. C tier, B tier. What are we thinking?
You pick.
See.
I don't have a hard.
Okay, next up is Guardwell. So Guardwell is another equipment keyword that reads, when this defends, when the combat chain closes, if this defended, put -1 defense counters on it equal to its defensive value.
It's easier because they ran out of words in the thesaurus.
They did run out of words in the thesaurus.
I really like Guardwell because of the like modifications you can do with it, like the Blade Breaker gauntlets and that stuff, or like interactions I've had with Scale Peeler make it interesting.
Yep.
Or like the new Guardian Shield looks like it's fun to play with. I'm high in Guardwell, but I don't love the name. It could be better.
For me, it's D because of fatigue.
You're just like tired of the mechanics?
I'm just tired of every new set having a new defensive mechanic.
Nah, I like Guardwell. Goes up in A.
We're going to talk about Transcend and Chi, the best mechanic.
Okay, next up, Transcend and Chi. So Transcend is, if you played another blue card, put this into your hand, flipped on its backside.
Well, that's not Transcend. Transcend is literally just flip it.
F.
Why?
You rated Awaken as bad, so this is bad. And apart from that, this is just a clunky mechanic because it goes into your hand backwards. So Transcend has the issue where it's really clunky to play with. It's really clunky to explain to newer players, where you're like, oh, if I play 2 instants, they see each other, so they both become Chi in my hand. You need to de-Chi before every game, or James White shoots you. You need opaque sleeves is the only limited format where you like need opaque sleeves. You don't get reminder cards or anything like that. And it just doesn't feel like it does anything interesting. Oh, you played a blue card, you got a special kind of blue card back. Wow.
I think it's cool.
I found it really fun to play. It's really cool. You get some really cool interactions, and I don't think the interaction's been too hard to explain to new players.
From a designer's perspective, I do appreciate how bold it is from conventional thinking, because the hard and fast rule for dual face cards for the longest time, at least in Western TCGs, has been you cannot have dual face cards in non-public zones. And also, the game should be playable without sleeves. I think it's a interesting choice that they ran with, and I think the mechanics and the feel of the heroes themselves really benefited from the fact that you replaced your deck as the game went on, and the replacements weren't necessarily better, but they unlocked bigger plays.
I mean, I feel like if they wanted to do Chi without the double face thing, it would have been really easy to do so, where they just could have been like, put an inner Chi in your hand, because we had the ephemeral cards in the set as well. So instead they were like, ooh, let's make this a little bit clunkier, a little bit more niche, a little bit bolder, which I didn't really appreciate.
Did we choose to go to the moon, Surian? Not because it was easy, but because it was hard. Okay? Same with why we chose to Transcend. Okay? I think that it would have been significantly less cool if it just replaced itself with the other one, with a Chi token. And I do appreciate that Elsis is willing to try more and more out there mechanics that are not. Basically, I like the idea of the idea of Chi. I think all the Chi cards were pretty cool, and that they were very, very minor effects that had interesting applications.
I agree with you on this stuff. I think it's an interesting mechanic they took a risk on. I didn't love where it ended up power level wise, but mechanically I do like it a lot.
I'll put it in S tier to satisfy you guys. Okay.
You'll have to satisfy us.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? Going it up, actually.
Sure. This is your channel. Let it be known that we attempted to show Surian the light.
Cloaked. So it's mainly because there's one playable cloak card that is Uphold Tradition in Constructed. In Limited, the best cloak cards were the Skyhold one, the one that prevented 1 damage, and that was basically it. Oh, and I guess the Aqua helmet or whatnot. I like what they were going for with the mechanic, where it's like, oh, it's a surprise. What's it gonna be? But realistically, your opponent only had like realistically, you were only going up against 2 or 3 options at most, even in limited formats.
I disagree, because there was Uphold Tradition, and then there was the other ones that gave something +1.
Waves Aquamarine, yeah.
The
prevent one.
Yeah, it didn't really do anything interesting there, because if your opponent had a cloaked arm slot, you were like, okay, they're either going to prevent damage or deal 1 more damage to me. That's basically it.
Well, no, it mattered because of what you're blocking, right? With Ways of Aquamarine, which also was ran and constructed as like a fringe card because of Uphold Tradition, which is a cool thing in itself. They used it so that you can push like a weakest link or like a CNC to 7, and people wouldn't expect it because they assumed it was going to be Uphold Tradition.
Exactly. You baited people. It was cool.
Yeah, but you baited people like twice before the
same thing with
got replaced.
Same thing with the one health chest pieces, the ones that activate at 1 health. They were rarer than the other chest pieces. So like players, if you were trying to min-max everything, you would play around it assuming that it would be able to prevent 1 damage until you but like towards the end of the game you're like, oh, maybe this guy's running the life chest piece instead. You have to play around, suddenly this player is going to get a free card in hand or going to get like 3 blade break block on my stealth card.
I mean, so with the one health chest pieces, you revealed them at the start of your turn, so your opponent knew that it was coming. And even if they played around the 1 damage one, you were dead at that point, so it didn't do anything. I don't think it did enough as a mechanic to justify its existence. Like even in constructed, like only 2 pieces were playable.
I felt very good and limited.
That's more than modular.
Modular. No, adaptive plating sees play. Galvanic Bender, or not Galvanic Blender. Adaptive Dissolver sees play. Those are the 2 modular equipments. Modular has 100% play rate.
I don't know.
I've seen gloves and boots played before in like real CC decks.
Yeah, for like 2 weeks. Then even in Enigma, Uphold Tradition got replaced.
I mean, like occasionally it did, not necessarily all the time. It was an option. It's like how most other mechanics are.
But if Enigma brings a face down equipment in the arm slot, you know that 90% of the time that's going to be Uphold Tradition. 95% of the time.
Yeah, and at 10% of the time, you're going to create a great situation that creates a blowout, and then it's like, oh, sweet, that's memorable.
Well, but if they don't do it on the first possible instance, like they drop a Mirror Guy, and then they haven't flipped Uphold Tradition face up, then you know it's the other one. It's not really been a... Not
necessarily. You just might assume that, they can't protect it this turn.
I feel it didn't really do enough to justify its existence. It was just kind of there as a mechanic.
The mechanic gets better the more you print of it, right?
Agreed.
It gets cooler. So that's why I rated it S. It's because the more you make, the more...
I'll put it in B. B for basic. Next up, Amp, A tier. So Amp reads, if you would deal arcane damage, instead deal that much arcane damage plus the Amp value of the card. So in the case of Kindle, you're dealing that much arcane damage plus 1. Neat mechanic, it simplifies a lot of things, especially the clunky text that was on a lot of cards.
Good mechanic, good fun foundation mechanic for the class. That's it.
Yep. Good with Surge.
Yep. Important to note that Amp also applies to any source of arcane damage, so including Rune Chance or your hero ability, whereas the cards that were like the next time you play a card only cared about you playing cards. So solid A for Amp. Next up, the 2 mechanics from the First Strike decks, Lightning Flow and Earthbond. So Lightning Flow cared about you playing lightning cards, in which case the card got an additional effect, and Earthbond cared about you pitching Earth cards, and if you did, the card got an additional effect.
I think it's the 2 of them together are good ways to showcase the differences in the classes and the heroes that run them. But otherwise, they're very simple mechanics. They're kind of just boring. They're just kind of there.
Yeah.
Fine replacements for Fuse.
I'm in the same boat.
All right, C tier for both of them. Okay, next up, Arcane Shelter. So Arcane Shelter appears on auras or non-equipment permanents and reads, if you would be dealt arcane damage, prevent that arcane damage and destroy this. It's like Spell Void, but for equipment, but for auras, and it also is mandatory. It's not optional.
Fatigue. It's another. We have Spell Void. It's just.
I think
Spell Void.
I think it goes on the same tier as Spell Void because I like the dichotomy of Spell Void being optional, or you get to choose when to apply it, whereas this being on permanence is not optional; it's mandatory. But it's only on 2 cards, and it has not had basically any impact in constructed.
They play Sigil Conductivity.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like Cecilia plays it, they use it pretty well because it's like a permanent sigil for them.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
Okay. What are we thinking? C tier?
Yeah, it's kind of medium.
All right.
Yeah.
Next up, Decompose. Decompose is an ability word, but to decompose, you banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard, and then you apply the effect. In the case of Felling of the Crown, both players put a card from their hand at the bottom of their deck.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I really like it. I like the kind of the overall gameplay of like having to fill your graveyard and like having these 2 blocks that you want to kind of block with. At least for a long, like before high seas, we had a lot more Earth 2 blocks we had to deal with. So you're like blocking with bad cards or playing these cards that just are inefficient to get like bigger payback. So basically, you're filling your grave for payoff later, which really felt cool in Earth and felt thematic.
The process of choosing what to banish was a lot more interesting than I expected. Otherwise, it is totally fine, and it's a good way to expand Earth's design space. So, not bad.
Yeah, I agree. I also flavorfully like the word decompose a lot because you're like getting rid of them. Yeah, solid B, A tier, I feel. Next up, Meld. So Meld appears on split cards and has you may play both or one halves of this card, and both halves cost X, where X is the cost of the card in the top right. My biggest issue with this mechanic is that the power level of the Meld cards varies a lot, and then that also kind of bogs down the instant side of the card as well. Like shock on Comet Storm and Shock, for example, Shock costing 2 is like a disgrace and hurts the overall card a lot. Whereas on something like Burn Up Shock, where both halves are 0, it's basically just a free 1 damage.
Yeah, I think the gameplay of them is fine. I just really dislike how it interacts with like any sort of. It's not intuitive. It doesn't feel like it's really melding the card. It's just like a split card basically, and I don't like tiny cards, man.
Yeah, I think there's a big discrepancy in power level, and I wish the split cards were like Magic's, where you could play either side and it had some utility. Instead, this is just like a kicker, and it feels kind of awkward, I think.
Yeah. C tier.
Yep.
Works for me.
Okay. Next up, Heavy. So Heavy is, if this is the only card in your weapon zone, it gets an additional effect. And the only card with it is Summit. So Rob, start us off.
I love Heavy. I think Heavy is really cool. It's really flavorful. The idea of you coming into battle with a shield and a big weapon, blocking, and then getting this powerful weapon in the end game that allows you to set up these fatigue states. I really hope we see more heavy weapons in the future. I like that it forces you to use Stalagmite unoptimally to get more value out of summits. I think that makes some interesting decisions.
I mostly agree with Rob. I think that the design space is pretty small for heavy, and I think that in terms of I would like it more if more offhands were permanent and you had to choose at the beginning of the game. I think overall, I agree with Rob's points.
Yeah. I agree with both of you. I think the real limiting factor is that most of the offense just destroy themselves eventually, so it's not like a real cost, more so a timer on the cards with heavy. But I like the flavor of it. I think there's definitely places they can take the mechanic, so seems pretty solid. Rob says S, I say A, Eugene says B, so we'll put it in A. Okay, next up, Return to the Brood. So cards with Return to the Brood have Revert to your base hero. And all of the Agents of Chaos. Yeah, it's a cool mechanic. Flavorful.
Yep, it's good with me.
Okay. All right, next up, Retrieve. So Retrieve is... Retrieve only applies to daggers for now, but to retrieve a card from your graveyard, you pay a resource, and then you get to equip it. Right now it's only for daggers, so you pay a resource, get a dagger from your graveyard, re-equip it.
I think it's really cool. I think it's mechanically of flicking knives, grabbing them back, flicking knives, grabbing them back, and just being able to cash in daggers and grab them. It's just it seems really cool being able to cycle through different kinds of daggers in theory. Haven't seen that come into play yet, but I think there's some really cool design space with it, and it fulfills that ninja and assassin kind of feel for me.
I agree with Rob. I think it's a lot more limiting than I'd like it to be, in terms of design space, because you have to pay one, so you can't have things that have variable equip costs. So I think in the future, if they want to design more different non-daggers to get retrieved, they would use not retrieve, which is the annoying part.
I think it's a bit on the clunkier side as a mechanic, because one, it limits daggers design space a lot, This mechanic specifically got Zephyr Needle banned. Zephyr Needle I really liked as a card because it was the only 2-power dagger. And then as well, the Retrieve mechanic has made Flick Knives way stronger than it needs to be, because before Retrieve, Flick Knives used to have a real cost for Assassin, where once you have flicked, you're pretty much never getting that dagger back. But now it's just made Flick Knives the default arms piece for Assassin, for Ninja. It's just kind of forced all daggers to be 1-power cards and kind of not have interesting effects, because if they have good effects, then they kind of get abused and broken with Flick and Retrieve style effects. So C tier for me.
I don't know. I won't fight you guys too much on this. I think it's an interesting mechanic, and I really like the power level bump in some of the older assassins. They need it. And I think all the current assassins and ninjas have been designed around it, but I understand. I like that it puts a timer on the game, too.
I'll bump it up to B. Okay, next up, Mark. So Mark is a status heroes have, and certain effects mark you, and then you remain marked until you are hit by an opponent. S tier for me, personally. I love the flavor of it. It's relatively easy to keep track of. I like that your opponents get additional effects for marking you, and then they have payoffs based on whether or not they're marked. Solid mechanic.
Yep.
Next up, High Tide. This is from High Seas. High Tide cards care about you having 2 or more blue cards in your pitch zone, and if you do, you get the additional effect. In the case of Battalion Bark, it just gets +2 power.
This is a high C mechanic.
High C, you gave it a B. I'm giving it a B.
Yeah, I think it does what it needs to do. It has an interesting quest to fulfill that makes the class stand out a bit. I don't like that it cares about color, when most classes don't care about color. So it gets a B.
Next up, Watery Grave. Cards with Watery Grave have, if this goes from the arena to the graveyard, flip it face down.
I don't like it because it's a hero-specific mechanic. It feels like it should be everything. Every Necromancer card should have. This is a mechanic that should have been like every Necromancer thing.
Yeah.
Every Necromancer has to do things differently, and so as a result, it's like it becomes a illusionist style class where every mechanic is different, or every hero is different mechanically.
I like it in concept, but I don't like the name. That's the biggest thing for me.
You like
I
blue
wish
black?
it was ubiquitous.
So C tier.
It's fine.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Next up, Go Fish. Go Fish makes your opponent play Go Fish, and if it hits, they reveal a card from their hand. If it fulfills a certain condition, they discard that card, and if you've activated a Harpoon, instead you look at their hand and get to choose the card that they reveal, and then it's too wordy.
It's probably too wordy, but it makes me laugh. I think it's funny.
It does get funny points, that's true.
I think it's fine. It's a class plus class specific mechanic, so it's only going to be on Marlin ever. I'm okay if those are a little bit more wordy. It doesn't feel like Go Fish at all, though. Unless you have the Harpoon. It just feels like Thoughtseize.
C tier.
Yeah, C's fine.
Okay. Next up, Steal. Steal just means gain control of it. And steal cards.
Yeah, like sure you can steal stuff. I think that's overall just fine.
Yeah. So undercover acquisition specifically F tier, but rest of the steal cards C tier.
Really, you don't mind Jack B. Nimble stealing your Mechanoid?
And Jack B. Wait. Oh yeah, and Jack B. Whatever, the one that steals items, also F tier.
Yeah, and Jolly Bludger.
Does Jolly Bludger's F tier for those 3 cards. Apart from that, the mechanic's fine. Rob, any thoughts?
No, you're just stealing shit. I don't know. I think it's a little cringe that they steal with a hook, but it's whatever.
Alright, next up, Unlimited. So Unlimited just means you can include any number of this in your deck. It's a whatever mechanic, in my opinion.
I rated it as a B because I feel like historically unlimited cards are very popular. I think Copper Cog is like a perfect example of a card that utilizes the mechanic well. So B tier for me.
People like it. It's fun. It's just has never typically been too powerful in any game I've played.
B tier. Okay, next up, Companion / Perched. So Perched is, you can equip this in addition to a 2-handed weapon, and then it cannot be attacked while it is in your weapon zone, but it can be targeted by like spells and effects.
It makes flavorful sense for Poly. It doesn't make sense to have an octopus on your shoulder, but I guess you might as well have an octopus on your shoulder. Whatever. Where else are you gonna put it? I think that it's a pretty narrow mechanic, and it's a fine way to make the ally playable, like a start and play ally playable. It just doesn't feel particularly.
I like the flavor of it. I'll put it high B tier.
I like that wizards can zap it. I think it's funny.
That's very funny, yeah. And then Scurv can just kind of chill here. Okay, next up we have Pair. So Pair is equip this only with a other type described in the pair. Right now we only have Gavel or Natural Order, which has Pair with an offhand, which means it can only be equipped with an offhand. I love this mechanic. It's super flavorful. It's got tons of design space. We just need more cards with Pair. Please print more Pair cards.
Heavy fulfills the same thing without needing to explicitly spell it out.
Well, so I think Pair can appear on a whole bunch of different cards, right? Imagine if we get Obsidian Firevein, or I don't know, Giga Obsidian Firevein, but it has Pair with Obsidian Firevein, so you can only have one of this card, and then you're forced to equip something else. Or you have a shield.
The scenarios where So the scenarios where you're doing that are cringe anime scenarios where you're like, oh, this is the sword of like ice and this is the sword of fire, and I'm gonna fucking ice and fire you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cringe.
That's cool. It's a balancing mechanic more than anything, and it prevents like two of the same card from being equipped. If you want to force specific synergies, you can do that. Like you could have, I don't know, something that pairs with Bloodied Oval, and the card is like the card like does something if Bloody Oval is destroyed.
Counterpoint: Gavel of Natural Order is the exact type of card that I would want to run two of.
Yeah, so it's a balancing mechanic.
Yeah, it's ruining my fun. It's no fun, not mechanic. I should be able to run two Gavels. You should go die. The end.
I should go die. Rob, what are your thoughts on Pair?
It just like isn't designed to, like it isn't explored enough. It's not like maybe it could be cool, but until it's on like a real CC card, I just don't care about it.
Okay.
Yep.
So sure, I'll give it a C until it appears on a real CC card. And then we have the two new mechanics from new set Super Slam, which is the Crowd Cheers You and the Crowd Boos You. I don't believe they do anything on their own, but cards care about the crowd cheering you or the crowd booing you.
We don't know it. I don't know. We don't know what they do. Really,
that's what they do. It's just like a thing that appears on
cards.
But
like we don't know how they actually play out. Like we don't know how. There's just so much that's missing. You can't say anything.
It's like how stealth would like if stealth didn't have the context of like every hero uses stealth differently, we couldn't evaluate it because it just does nothing, right?
Yeah.
Darn. All right, go in.
You don't know enough about how. My one gripe with this is that I don't like that there's two different talents. I would rather like there be a meter of like how much the audience likes you, and it slides back and forth based off of how you're performing.
So you want Tide?
I think that would be more funny.
You want Tide from Keyforge?
No, not Tide. It's a sliding meter. So
you want the memory gauge from Digimon?
Yeah. Except it would just measure how like happy the audience is with you. So like Wyeth and KO would be like, oh, I want my meter to be low. So I would play all the low cards, and that would be the same thing that the talent does, except it wouldn't have as much flavor. But anyway, my one gripe is that these two mechanics are the same mechanic, but like they're just differently flavored.
Okay, I'm gonna put Comeback Kid in S tier because I really like the flavor of it. Like the crowd is cheering on this guy, so he just like stands back up. But yeah, apart from that,
Sure.
We don't know anything about it. Anyway, this is the final tier list of Flesh and Blood mechanics. This is definitive. If you disagree, you're wrong. And if you agree, you're wrong as well, because certain mechanics should be higher, certain mechanics should be lower. Any thoughts, Yichin and Rob?
I'm glad it's over.
I am glad we're done.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Please go check out their channels. Rob can be found at All In Together, and Yichin can be found at OKNY.
Oh, I can't be found anywhere. Do not find me.
You can be found
I am
at
a purple Discord.
Golden Gate Battlegrounds.
Subscribe to Rob's channel. He needs the subscribers. He's trying to
True.
hit. If he hits 500 subscribers, he gets a cookie.
Yeah.
Ooh, daughters.